Supposed to meeting? No, just
No,
ignore
no,
it. Okay. It'll
you're
disappear.
live. We're live.
Yeah, I
Okay.
wonder why it's saying that.
Don't worry. This is just
Yeah.
telling us that this is
Oh,
streaming
okay.
to other services. Yeah, that's all
Okay.
that is.
Okay. So I
That's
do nothing.
you don't worry about anything. We are
Okay.
live.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
All
So
right.
to the viewers, I have a question for you. How does it strike you when you hear the phrase, "It's raining soulmates"? Does your heart soar with hope? Like, hooray, okay, there is someone for me after all. Or does resistance loom up inside of you and say, as if? Well, you're about to find out if it's true, and if so, how? Because tonight I have a very special guest joining me on the show, a soulmate rainmaker, if you will. So welcome to Reclaim Your Radiance, where we explore how you can protect, cultivate, and expand your energy so that you can flourish in life as the greatest expression of your true self. This means unraveling and healing your limiting patterns and learning how to get on your own side with love and integrity so you can really shine and offer the best of yourself to yourself and the world and a potential soulmate even. If you don't know me, my name is Melanie Starr, and I'm a life coach, master EFT tapping practitioner, Reiki master, and yoga teacher with more than 20 years of experience in the health and wellness field. I'm a creator of the holistic divorce healing method and a lifelong learner in the realm of holistic health and healing. Tonight, I am delighted to introduce our guest, Ellen Arrand, who is the founder of It's Raining Soulmates. It is Ellen's mission to keep women from getting into unhealthy or unsatisfying relationships and instead find the partner of their dreams. With over 30 years of experience as a coach, mentor, group leader, and emotional release specialist, she has successfully guided clients through deep-seated inner obstacles so they get what they truly want. For the last 5 years, she has focused most of her attention on guiding women over 40 to find and keep their soul right partners. Ellen believes that this journey to the soulmate creates one of the deepest inner and outer transformations and is an important step to self-actualization. Welcome, Ellen.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. And you can hear me okay, I hope.
Yes,
Um,
you're fine. Yep,
yeah,
your
and
audio is fine.
oh, good. I just wanted to thank you, Melanie, for your wonderful show. I've been watching it in bits and just finding it so helpful and empowering for women to get this diversity of help and tips from you. So
Oh, well, thanks.
a
Thank you so
wonderful
much.
show.
Oh, I'm glad you're enjoying it. I'm having fun
Yeah,
too. Well, I mean, we've been in the same program together, and you know that it can
yeah,
be hard to get over some of the inner hurdles to putting yourself out there.
yeah.
And I guess that goes if you're looking for clients, your soulmate clients, or your soulmate partner.
Uh-huh.
Some of the same kinds of challenges, right? Like there's this fear of putting yourself out there, whether it's out there in a business way or out there in the romance area. So
Yeah.
because tomorrow is Valentine's Day, I really wanted to, I've been like last week, I spoke about self-love as,
Mhm.
kind of like my theme for February is love and relationships. And then starting, of
Yeah.
course, with our relationship with ourselves as being so fundamental to everything in our life and especially our partnerships with other people. So then I thought the natural progression from that would be to have you in and
Yay.
talking about that next step. When you're firmly established in your self-love is a pretty good place to start. Then
It
you're looking for a
is.
soulmate. Um,
Uh-huh.
so, but because as I mentioned, I'm a divorce coach. I'm a holistic
Yep.
divorce coach and also a
Yep.
wellness coach. And of course, so I'm involved with a lot of divorced women.
Yep.
And a lot of those women over 40 are, those who are ready, looking for soulmates or a partner. Um, I hear a lot of grim news, from
Uh-huh.
the dating front, as it were. So
Uh-huh.
I'm just so like part of why one of the reasons I want to talk to you is like, how do you even say with such confidence that it's raining soulmates? Because a lot of women would say,
Mhm.
well, that's not what I'm experiencing. So
Right.
I'm just so
So
excited and interested
yeah.
in your
Yeah.
perspective. Like, how do you hold that belief?
Well, I can talk a little bit about why I called it It's
Yeah,
Raining
sure.
Soulmates, and then I have 5 reasons why I think it's not only possible, but probable that you can find your soul right partner after 40.
Okay.
So I call it It's Raining Soulmates as a kind of contradiction because patterns can set in with women who've been single a long time or divorced or gone through even being widowed. And we tend to do what we've been, when we go through stuff like that, is we tend to huddle. And huddling is wonderful. Huddling is a great thing. We huddle against the unknown. We huddle to find safety, and we find kindred spirits in the huddle that have been through similar experiences. And alone in this sort of cave of huddling, we heal and rejuvenate, and we hang on to each other, and we really feel our feelings and feel safe doing that. But
Yes.
women in particular can get stuck in the huddle and all sorts of things. There's all sorts of problems with that. And I'm not sure about your women who have just been divorced might need to be in the huddle, for a long
For a
time
while.
still, so they might not be ready to take the next step. But
Yes.
what happens with little girls is we start going towards our goal and it gets hard and we feel it. And the
Okay.
loving people around us say, well, just don't do it then. And
They want to save us from pain, don't they?
they do, but little
Yeah.
boys, they do the opposite. They said, well, keep going.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
so
Suck it up.
boys, yeah, so boys go ahead without stopping and feeling, and girls stop their dreams. So neither one is ideal.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
we do need to stop and huddle, but we also need to move out of the huddle. So we can get sort of a really twisted view of reality when we're in the huddle too long.
Oh,
And
yeah.
an example of that would be when I worked at the Women's Sexual Assault Center, um, I was seeing from morning to night women who had been sexually assaulted, women who had been abused sexually as children. And I had a little daughter, and I was seeing this all day. And I was doing a great job counseling these women and leading them and, admiring them. But there came a point when my whole reality was that. I would
Right.
see a man holding his daughter's hand, and I would think, that guy's abusing his daughter. And, that that just wasn't true. That
Right.
wasn't the reality. I mean, maybe that was true, but
Well, let's hope
usually
not.
you hope not.
But
But
your perceptions start to get altered, right?
that's
Yes.
right. And
Yeah.
so if you stay in the huddle too long and things you were saying, there are no good men out there, all the good ones are
Yep.
taken, that
All the
becomes
good ones are taken, is what you hear. Yep.
yeah, and that becomes your reality because you have the huddle is saying, yes, that's true.
Right.
And
It's a
so
self-fulfilling prophecy. Is that what you're getting at?
well,
That,
yes, yeah, it
yeah.
is. And that's how you're seeing the world through that filter. And
And then
then,
you're behaving with that is subtly influencing your vibe.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And you're not going for it because
Right.
that's your reality is why bother?
And the
They're
fear of
all
failure,
jerks.
right? The fear of failure and the fear of rejection,
Absolutely.
pretty intense.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Especially when you've already been through a divorce and you're already suffering, like you may well be suffering a feeling of rejection. Even if you
Yeah.
were the one who chose to end the relationship, it's probably because you were feeling rejected inside the relationship.
Yeah. Not seen and not
Yeah.
adored and all that stuff.
Yeah. All
Yeah.
that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So why I think it's probable? Did you want me to go there?
Yeah, sure. Like, so it's when you say it's raining soulmates,
Oh
what
yeah,
do
I
you
can get
think? Like,
back to
what do you
that.
mean? Like, really, like
Well,
literally. Because
sorry.
it's like, where are they? They're everywhere,
Yeah,
right?
well, that's the kind of contradiction. Instead of there aren't any out there, they're, all, either dead or married, kind
It's
of
not just
thing.
that they're not there. There's tons of them. They're everywhere.
They're everywhere. And you only
Right.
need one. And there's how many billions I've lost track on the planet of people, and at least,
8.
8 billion people on the planet. And there's bound to be at least a million that you could set up a good life with and lead a good
Right.
life with, and that'd be honorable and trustworthy and all that stuff. And you only need to find one. And probably in your area, I like to say there's probably way more, but there's at least 4. And you
In
only
your
need to find one.
in a geographic radius that's realistic.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you said you only need one, and this is I think another thing that might hang women up, and tell me what you think about it, is this idea of the one, and there's
Mhm.
only one on the
Yeah,
planet.
yeah,
How are you
no.
going to find them? That's a needle in a haystack, right?
Yeah, I know. It's impossible if there's only one. And what if they die or,
Right,
disappear or something? That's it for you. Sorry.
right, right. So you don't
So
encourage that
I
thinking.
don't encourage that. I think there's lots of soul right people for you. And of course, I believe in committed monogamous relationships because that's where the work gets done. Um, so I don't really believe in the poly, stuff. I'm not really a proponent of that, although for some people, I guess that works, but I don't see how you can get to the deep work you need to get to unless you're committed.
So when
So
you say the deep work, like now, no, I'm making a note here because I do want to get back to that. So when you say that's where the work happens, I want to know, we'll get into like, what is that work?
yeah, that's sort of once you've got your partner, and I'm sort of,
We'll get to
yeah,
that. I'm going to make a note to what is the deep
okay,
work in relationship.
okay,
But it's the finding part.
absolutely.
And it's
Yeah.
not just, so there's what do you, and when, and then of course, so what do you mean by one, but then what in your mind, how do you define a soulmate? What is a soulmate?
I guess it's a person you can live with who, which is big,
Right.
who also inspires and enhances your life. Yeah.
Right.
And is trustworthy and all those good things too. But if you can't live with the person, if you're always in angst and addicted, and then they become addicted to you and all that stuff, it's just a dance that goes back and forth and never ends. So it
Right.
has, you have to be soulmate ready in order to be in a solid relationship. And that's sort of my job, is to get women soulmate.
Sure. So we'll get into that. What being soulmate ready is. So, but we'll come to that. So,
Did
what
you want my
mistakes do you,
possible, but not probable, but not only possible, but probable?
not only possible, but probable.
I've got my
So
notes, but we don't have to go into
whatever,
some.
oh yeah, I know you have your notes, and we'll kind of meander around a little bit, and we'll try to make sure that we don't miss anything that you specifically
I'm an
wanted.
Aquarius. I'm a fixed sign.
You're an Aquarius.
My husband is a triple Aquarius. So
Triple Aquarius. You mean sun, moon, and
a rising, I guess.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not an astrologer really, but
No, I'm not either.
we'll
But
get to him too because I want to know the story of how you met him. But
okay.
first, for the viewers' benefit, since so many women, certainly from what I see a lot of struggle, and I see a lot of
Yeah.
pain and a
Yep.
lot of loneliness and a lot of angst
Yeah.
from women that I speak with. Um, some of them are really, really suffering on this topic.
Yeah.
So, what mistakes do women make in their search for a soulmate that you observe?
Well, the huddling for one thing,
The
huddling
huddling.
too long.
Huddling
I
too
mean,
long with other women. You mean like
yeah,
commiserating.
commiserating, and that's a good thing to a point, like I said. And you need to go back to the huddle. You try something out, it doesn't work, back to the huddle. But the huddle, like in my courses and stuff, I design the huddles to also encourage women to get back on the horse. Yes, you need to yell and scream and cry and be mad, shake your fist and all that stuff, because it is hard. It's really hard. But then also get back out there. So you see that with women who are wanting to lose weight or something. They get together with another girlfriend, and within a week it gets hard and they're binging. It's like they're not really helping each other,
Right.
so that's sort of an example of what can happen. So no huddling, stop waiting and hoping. And I think that's a big mistake women make. And they think they're going into action because they're sitting at home with their wine glass and they're, swiping whatever. I don't know app stuff, but I know they're on their apps and they think, well, okay, I looked for 5 minutes or half an hour and I was in action. But action has to be, like in business, it has to be, profitable. So action, you have to get out of the hoping and waiting, because that will just lead you to depression,
That
and
idea,
sadness.
if my soulmate is really meant for me, he'll just arrive.
He'll just drop out of the
He'll
sky.
just drop out of the sky and there he'll be.
And that does occasionally happen, but
It
it's like
does.
winning the lottery. You can't
Yeah.
wait around for it. And if you're not ready, admit that and stay in the huddle and get all the love you need. But if you are ready, then it's going to be scary and it's going to be hard. And but only use the huddle to get your courage up at that
Right.
point.
It's kind of like you can go
So
back to the huddle and then venture out,
yeah,
go
yeah,
back for a little bit and then venture out again.
that's right.
It's
I
hard
just
because people, the standards for like basic civility have really dropped in society, and getting ghosted is so common now, and just
yeah,
uh
it's horrible.
it's
Yeah,
horrible. Like, yeah, there's a lot of pain that you're
yeah.
gonna have to kind of get tough, I guess, in a way.
Yeah, and try different things. I mean, go if your friends have somebody they might think is good for you, go on that meeting, go meet the person, or do all the things they say to do, like join groups that you would want to be part of. And then at least the person has some same interests. If you love meditating, go to meditation class. Love cooking, do that. So
Right,
there are things, but you do have to take some action. I'm all about the inner work. I don't think you can really get to soulmate without the inner work, but you
right,
also have to be out there. You can't just be
right,
home with your slippers and unless maybe the plumber, things can happen,
right.
but I wouldn't depend on that.
No.
And the other thing, mistake, the last mistake that I'm going to talk about today is and I believe this comes from thousands of years of women's oppression, is um, getting narrow in your search too quickly. Um, because, when we're on our own, we can shut that down. But when we start to search for love, we sort of open ourselves up to that terror. Women who were not with a person were banished. They starved to death. In some cultures, they were killed. So that
Oh,
terror comes up when we're looking for someone. So we see someone who's sort of okay, he's kind of a nice guy. I'll go with him. And
right,
instead of keeping the net wide, until you have a lot of good um, choices,
right.
and then start funneling it down. But I see women do that too much, and of course it.
Just like the first
Oh,
guy that seems like an okay guy, just kind of like
yeah,
go too fast into a relationship with that person instead of like just keeping it more casual with more like meeting more people.
yeah,
Um,
exactly. Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
okay. Um, on that topic, I've certainly, I see a lot of discussion in the divorce groups and so on that I'm involved with, and I see different advice from different people. And some, there's this idea of like you can only date one person at a time,
Mm,
or it's bad somehow.
okay.
Personally, I think actually you should be dating all kinds of different people.
Yeah, not
That's the way
having
you're going to meet more
sex.
people and figure out who you like. You don't jump in bed
Yeah,
with everybody.
yeah,
Uh,
no sex because that women's hearts and sex get all muddled. So
Oxytocin takes over
yeah, that's
and you
right.
get
So
bonded. You get bonded
that's
and then
right.
you're like, you're in there.
You're
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah. You're toast.
Which can be fun, but then it's painful
And,
afterwards.
then comes the pain. Right. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So those are the big mistakes: the huddling, the waiting and hoping, and narrowing too quickly.
Yep.
Those are the big ones.
Yep.
Okay. So then what is so there's some obvious antidotes to that, but you mentioned that like these are the outer pieces. You mentioned that the inner work is the more important part. So what is the crux of the inner work that's required to become soulmate ready?
Well, like any kind of goal you're after, you have to go through a transformation to get there. And when I tell my story, if there's time for me to tell my story,
Absolutely.
I'll talk about the transformation I had to go through.
Yep.
But you have to turn inward. And yes, there are a lot of awful guys out there. There are a lot of users and, awful people.
Players.
Yep.
Yep.
And you have to look inward though and start looking at, well, what drew me to that person. And it's to me, it's all family of origin stuff, pretty much
Oh
all of it.
yeah.
And that's where we start working. And the earliest memories um, are the ones that it's like fly paper gets stuck to them. You can work on the later memories and, it takes longer. But if you go with the early one, you get through stuff faster. So that's my suggestion if you're working with a counselor or therapist or just a friend that you get together and exchange. Go for the earliest memory where what did your mother teach you? What did your father teach you? What did you learn about marriage and all that stuff? And where were you hurt? I mean, if you're getting together with a man who just tells you you're beautiful all the time and you were told you were homely as a child, of course you're going to
Ooh,
cling to that guy, and
right,
he may have nothing else redeeming about him.
right, right.
So the subconscious or the inner child or whatever you want to call it, her mission is to find the same family structure you were in. And in order to heal it, I mean, she has a noble mission, but that doesn't work. You
You have to
cannot
heal it
heal.
first.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're
you
not going
have
to heal
to.
it in the relationship necessarily.
That's yeah, the relationship can be great for you both supporting each other to heal your past, but
Yes.
the relationship will not give you what you never got as a child.
Right.
That's
And you,
gone.
because of what
That,
happened when you were a child, you could end up in the wrong relationship.
yeah.
Um, the term that I've heard is the imago theory of relationships. The have you
Oh, okay.
Harville Hendrix,
Oh, I
Getting
love
the Love
Harville
You
Hendrix.
Want.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and where you'll tend to subconsciously choose somebody who has characteristics that you subconsciously recognize as being a match for the parent with whom you have the least resolved relationship.
Yeah,
So you'll marry, either your father or your mother.
yeah.
In
Great.
this kind of like desire to have a resolution to that feeling that you were never quite recognized or seen or loved the way you
Yeah,
wanted to be by that
yeah,
parent.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a
And
futile.
in fact, he said at one point the purpose of marriage is to heal your childhood, which doesn't sound romantic at all. But
Not particularly, does it?
no, but there's romance inside that. But yeah, but that's what he thinks the purpose is, because it doesn't come up unless you're in a relationship. The really deep nitty gritty stuff.
Right.
I was counseling for years before the nitty gritty stuff.
There is
So
nothing like a romantic relationship to trigger you,
yeah,
especially in the
yeah,
early days.
yeah.
It's the most triggering thing. I was so triggered in the early days of my relationship. It was like a year for my nervous system to calm down.
Well, how long
Yeah.
were you married? Or was this the
26
same?
year. I was with my
26.
husband for 32 years.
Holy crow. Yeah,
So that's a long time.
it is.
That's a really
Yeah,
long time. Yeah. And then it
yeah.
was, I waited for 3 years after leaving that relationship to even consider,
Hmm.
another
Wise,
relationship. So,
probably
yeah.
wise. Yeah.
And I had one of those unfortunate situations where the person just did just appear. It was
Oh,
one of
lucky
those,
you.
but I mean, we knew
You
each
won the
other before.
lotto.
Yeah,
What's
that's
that?
right. Yeah, pretty
Yeah,
much.
yeah. That's great.
So
That's
very
great.
lucky, very lucky.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you are.
yeah.
Yeah. But you did the work as well
I
for
had been doing
3 years.
the work, but I realized, that I still have come a long way since then. It's been 5 years since then. So it's an ongoing process.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
know how it is. It's just, it goes on and you
Yep.
might think you've got things healed and then you realize, oh, wow, no, I didn't. Or I had them partially healed. It's like
Right.
par
Right.
cooked.
But you healed enough that you're in a good
That's
relationship.
right.
So
That's right.
that's wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It takes time. And then it's also a healing relationship. Some relationships are like that too.
Good.
A mutually
Woohoo.
healing relationship. Yeah. So, but they're not,
Congratulations.
that's a heavy load to put on somebody too. Like both people have to be really prepared for that.
Okay. To be each
Helping each
other's
other
healers.
heal. You have to be really
Yeah.
conscious and able to really talk about things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
sounds
It's very
fabulous.
interesting.
Yeah.
So, how do you do that? Like, is that the big process that you tend to work on with your clients? Is that like looking for the patterns? Like, what are your childhood patterns in terms of
Yeah.
relationship? Like,
I
what
think,
might you be looking
yeah.
for that's not really serving you? Like how programming
Yeah.
from your childhood is sabotaging your love prospects or getting you into bad relationships again and again.
Yeah. I think I do that for sure. I think I do it more intuitively. I just go for, what's come up in the moment, and then we
Yeah.
connect the dots to that. But the main thing is I get people to cry and sweat and laugh and, rage and all that stuff. I get them moving on their feelings, but definitely then they connect the dots much better than I ever could.
Right.
And because they're moving through those feelings. And then I also bring in the external world, how women have been oppressed and how that affects our quest for love and all that stuff. And then I also have the big vision. So when I worked with people in person, but I haven't done that in a long time, I had groups in person, I would do the big spectacles, the birthing tents and John Bradshaw stuff and, all that's, wonderful stuff, mindful walks through the woods and serving them great lunches and things like that, to give them that sense of their worthiness, that this, partner you're going to have, it should be like that. It should be everything and more.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, women are,
So,
a lot of women, and especially divorced women, they have sadly become accustomed to accepting crumbs.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I certainly did.
And
I
they're
did.
not necessarily fully bought into their worth.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it can take some time to develop that and to feel that
Yeah.
and to recognize when they're being treated properly versus when they're not
Yeah.
in a
And get
relationship.
seed that in somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is what it might feel like,
So they
Yeah.
recognize it. It's
Yeah.
like it's not, it's like if you don't have a certain programming in your, it's like with a computer or something. If you don't have the program, you can't run that operation.
Yep. That's right.
So it's like you need that programming to be installed, like
Yeah, it's
after
like
market
having the
installation.
vision. You need the vision, or where are you going? Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
creating a new inner experience that gives you almost like an emotional template
Very
that
well
you can then
said.
use to guide you. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Now that I know what it feels like to feel honored or appreciated or adored, oh, I never felt that before.
Yeah.
How can you recognize something you've never felt before?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's right. Or felt from a narcissist who does it, but for the wrong reasons, to
that's
learn
different.
the
And
difference.
that does
Learn the
have a different
difference.
kind of feel to it too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So getting that genuine, like, here's the coding. You could think of it as coding. It's like, here's the coding for a genuine feeling
Yeah.
of being seen and respected and
Yeah.
admired and all of those things.
Yeah. And
So
just to get a glimpse of that.
you help to build that coding into
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. Exactly.
Cool. Cool.
Ooh, you said it so well. I have no words. That's
Um,
right.
so with your husband,
Yes.
how did you find him? And what, you said you had a story, a snow story.
I do have a snow story. I tried to get it down to, where was it? Down to 5 minutes. Is that too long? Um, you can always interrupt me.
It's
Let me
okay.
see. Where is the story? Um, okay, here it is. It was like really long, and then the short version didn't have the snow part in it. I thought I got to put
Oh,
the
okay.
snow part in it because you're from the Atlantic coast, right?
And we are in a
So,
snowstorm tonight. The snow is just piling up, the fastest I've seen in a while.
holy doodle. Okay, so I'm in a fabulous relationship with my husband. I've been in this relationship for about 20 years, and we have so much in common. It's sort of uncanny. I don't know if you feel like that with your person, that it's sort of like,
Yes.
really,
Oh,
we have
yes.
we do
Yeah.
that, we think that.
Uncanny.
It's uncanny. And he's honest and trustworthy and kind and good. And I still think he's the cutest guy in town. So,
That's great.
but that wasn't always the case for
Okay.
me. So I didn't get together with my husband until I was in my midlife, probably going through my midlife transition. Um, at age 41, I thought I was doing pretty well. I had survived my
Right.
20s and
And
my first
30s.
and 30s, and my first relationship from 18 to 23 was, just left me stripped of my identity and my sense of being able to make it in the world and my dreams.
Oh, wow.
And I had a little daughter born. I left him 2 weeks after she was born. I woke up and thought, I cannot have her around us. But, I was left in poverty and trying to heal myself of this relationship. I had no idea why I was in this addictive thing. And so I learned how to heal myself, and others do the same in this intentional grassroots counseling community I was part of. And I found friends and other single parents, and I was active in the women's movement. And eventually I got an education for myself. And I gave up after a few more tries at relationships that were not good. They weren't as bad as the first one, but they just
Right.
were crummy. And that was fine. I just gave up. And for my 30s, I was celibate, or whatever the word is. I didn't have a relationship.
Hmm.
And then my daughter grew up and moved out. And at age 41, that old ache came back. And I was like, oh no, I don't want to feel that.
Right.
And here's the snow part. It was, where did my story go? Anyway, I can just make it up because I know it. Um, oh yeah, that must be it. So there was a huge snowstorm in Victoria, which only happens, like we get some snow, but this was huge, like the one you're having now, like snow up to people's
Victoria,
windows. And
BC?
yeah, it
Oh
happens
gosh.
every 60 or 70 years. There was one in the 1800s and maybe one in the 20s, but this was, I think, 2008 or 9. I can't
Okay.
remember the
I
exact
heard
date.
about that one actually. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
it was huge, and we have no ability to handle snow here,
Right.
so everything shut down. You had to, tunnel to get to the stores, and I was lying awake on my bed, and it was so quiet because there were no cars,
Right.
no people walking about. It was just so quiet, and I could hear the sea lions calling for their mates.
Oh my
This
gosh.
beautiful sound. And I just started sobbing, and I thought
Uh-huh.
that's never going to happen for me. 10 years of celibacy, no man in sight that was reasonable. That's never going to happen. So I decided, well, I can't control that. So what can I control? And I'd never had an adventure because of being a single parent and blah, blah, blah. And I had I'm a writer, a little tiny money left over from a writer's grant. And I decided I would go on a trip, a shoestring trip through Mexico, rent out my apartment, which my landlord was surprisingly okay with, sublet my apartment, so all my bills were paid, and the little grant money would help me travel on a shoestring. So I did that for 3 months. It was fabulous. But of course, that ache came with me. I was
Hmm.
hoping I could just leave it at home, but it came with
Right.
me,
It
and
followed you to
it
Mexico.
followed me to
It wasn't
Mexico.
leaving you.
And at the end of that adventure, I met this man from New York who was um, really interested in me, in my adventures. He was a bit older, and my walls just fell down. He was intelligent, sexy, everything. And we had this love affair through the mail, real letters. And I went to Maine and New York, where he had a place in Maine as well. And he came to Victoria, and we spent 3 months in Mexico together, and it was all fabulous. I'd never felt that beautiful in my life. I may never feel that way again, but I had never felt that beautiful in my life. I never laughed so much. And then it started to feel like, well, we're always on holiday time together. And that made me a bit suspicious. So sure enough, I started to investigate, and he had a common law wife in New York. They were kind of separated, but they lived in the same apartment and had sex once in a while.
Oh,
And, and he had other girlfriends.
oh
And so I
God.
had to end it. And that was devastating
Oh
because
yeah.
my little inner child thought she had found all her needs were being met for the first
Right.
time in her life. And she didn't want me to let go of him, but I knew from all my experience that I had to. And
Yeah.
I was ashamed. I'd been through the women's movement, I'd marched, and all that stuff. And I was devastated over some guy.
Yep.
And but I
Yep.
was really devastated, and I couldn't function very well. And my daughter kept phoning. She was worried about me and saying,
Mm.
oh, this too will pass, Mom. And friend gave me a little stone to carry around, and I couldn't be around people. And yet I needed to be around people. So I would go to Chapters, this bookstore that used to be in Victoria, that was open till 11 at night. And I would have a soy milk and just stay there to be around people, and that I didn't have
Just
to
not to be alone.
interact, just not to be alone.
Yeah.
And yet I had my toolbox of counseling and spiritual work and all that, and did a little bit of hypnotherapy and an exchange. And one day I was walking through Beacon Hill Park, our beautiful park here, and all the camas, blue, purple camas flowers were out, and the sun was over them. And I knew I was going to be okay.
Oh,
And I
nice.
had never really known I didn't feel that until that moment. It was like, oh, I'm consciously aware that I am going to be okay now. And after that, this is the miracle part. After that, all these really nice, handsome, committable men were interested in me. And that had never happened to me my entire life. You know, I
Okay.
just had all these men. I didn't have to do anything. At one point, I was dating three at the same time, and one of them ended up as my husband. So
Nice.
it was, yeah, it was weird, but I had gone through the transformation. So I needed to go through. So then I went back and retraced my steps. You know, I got married and all that stuff, but I was thinking I need to help women not go through transformation by reharming themselves like I did and
Yep.
brutalizing themselves by being with another jerk. And
Yep.
how can they go through the transformation they need to go through to get to
Yep.
their soulmate in a therapeutic, safe environment? So all my programs and classes are based on what I found through my journey to my soulmate.
Nice.
So that's my story.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And so you guide women into that transformation as well. And
Yes.
that's,
Yeah.
I do similar kinds of work with divorce clients. And I certainly have seen the pattern in quite a few of my clients where they got out of their marriage and they got into another relationship before they were healed.
Yeah.
And they were more hurt by that second relationship than they were by their marriage. And I figure the mechanism going on there is that like they were when they got married, they had a certain level of self-esteem, you know, from
Mm,
like being in their 20s or
from
whatever they
yeah,
were, but they
yeah,
got torn to pieces in their marriage
yeah,
and their self-worth is just like tatters. And so they have their feeling very, very unworthy and get into an even more dangerously sometimes abusive relationship.
yeah,
And then are like, oh my God, I can't believe I let that happen. And then
yeah,
really even harder on themselves yet again. So it's
yeah,
like there's so much self compassion and self-forgiveness
yeah, yeah. And
that has to
self-love. You
happen.
did a whole show on self-love. It's so important. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
Yep. To really have your own back and
yeah,
not be willing to just like throw away your own values and your own interests and like, oh, I'll just form myself to whatever
yeah,
he wants.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's that desperate child inside, this
Wanting
time I'll
approval, right?
fix the family, and then I'll get what I need. And it does not work. You have
It's
to grieve and grieve and grieve your childhood. I'm afraid to say
yeah,
that you have to. Yeah, and yeah, we
yeah.
do similar
It's
work.
really important. It's
Yeah.
really important.
Yeah.
So how can we have a free gift? You have a free gift that we're
Yeah.
gonna pop it into the comments so that people can come and download that.
Okay.
It's a guide, right? You have a guide?
It's six essential kind of foundational things you should know
Okay.
about looking for your soulmate. So I have a bonus little short version that you put on your fridge also attached, and then I have the longer PDF that's
Okay.
one or two pages, I can't remember, and then the
Okay.
little one you can put on your
Nice.
fridge, just to remind you, you need these foundational pieces
Right.
before you
Keep
even
working,
begin
keep
to.
putting those blocks in place.
Yes,
Get that foundation
absolutely.
in place to be
Absolutely.
strong.
Yes.
Yeah. And then you're holding on to your own values and you're really committed to what you're looking for, not just like
Absolutely.
the first person that seems like they tick most of the boxes or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
We have to not do that. And it's the fear, it's the terrorists,
Yeah.
you know,
And to be
thousands
clear
of
of what
years
they're
of
looking for in
ignorance.
the relationship too, and that they're looking for someone who will enhance their life, not just someone to so that they're not lonely or that they
Yeah,
can, like, I need a
absolutely.
partner because I
I
need one.
wrote this down somewhere, but I don't have it here. But yes, you want that you want a relationship that keeps you growing and changing and adds excitement and energy into your life.
Right.
Yeah,
Not that's draining you.
that's right.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So how can women reach you to learn more? What are your coordinates, Ellen? Like the most what's the best way for
Oh,
people to reach out to you?
well, if you get the free gift,
Okay.
then I'll be
Yep.
able to contact you. You can also DM me,
Okay.
and I'll certainly write something back. If you're a single woman, I don't want any men
Right.
DMing me.
Right.
But if you're a single woman who's keen on finding a soulmate, just yeah, send me a little message.
Okay.
I'll
So
write
maybe
back.
you can comment, like this is going to go, like this video will go up onto Facebook. If you want to hop onto it here shortly, maybe you can even comment on it and then people can reach people who want to talk to
Sure.
you. We'll have your Facebook like right there. It'll
Oh,
be right
sure.
there in the comments. So that would
Okay.
work.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing your hard-earned wisdom gained over
Oh,
decades of experience and a lot of work as a counselor and a healer in with women for many, many years. So thank you for and what you've distilled from that here. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you
you're
for joining
welcome.
me.
Thank you
Um,
for having me.
it's really my pleasure. It
You're
really
such a good
is.
listener.
I like to talk and I like to listen. It's good.
Mm,
It's a good
you're good.
combination.
Great. Primo.
So thank you so much. And just to the viewers, just you're more than welcome. Please feel free to share your thoughts about this episode in the comments and share it with your friends who are also maybe on looking for that soulmate so that they can reclaim their radiance in 2024. And don't forget that you have the power to create meaningful, positive change in your life, and you don't have to do it alone. We have your back. Thanks for watching and see you next week.
Yay.